At the start of the year, there were an estimated 5 million businesses in the UK, employing 24 million people with a combined turnover of over £3,000 billion. The chance to be your own boss and to maximise income is attractive to many of us. Almost 500,000 new businesses are launched every year. It's no secret that many new businesses fail, and entrepreneurs must be hardworking, committed, and prepared. Purchasing a franchise is an alternative. It ticks most of the boxes of owning a business, but with substantially less risk. Brian Smart is Director General of the British Franchise Association.
The BFA was set up in order to give prospective franchisees a real opportunity to see what the good franchise companies in the UK are. We assess all of our member companies against specific standards in their structure, in their financing, in their legal agreements, and in their trading history. That gives our prospective franchisees a very good indication of the businesses that have been well set up to offer the kind of franchise that they might be thinking of buying into.
We spent the day at eTyres, a franchise specialising in car tyre supply and fitting nationwide. Tony Bowman explains the company setup and the decision to become a franchise.
I'm the founder and managing director of eTyres. We started the business in 1992, we started franchising in 1996, and we've got just over 70 territories now operational. The first franchise owners who joined us in 1996 are still with us, and they're great friends now, apart from being business colleagues. In 1997, 1998, we saw the upsurge of the first round of the dot-com boom, and eTyres became the first online tyre retailer in the country. Since then, we've developed the online presence more and more, and the business is pretty much all revolves around online sales.
Hi, come to do your tyres. If I get the keys, the two back ones.
Yes, thank you.
Great, thanks a lot.
Thanks.
I was looking for a business where there was a constant demand for the product. Tyres aren't a luxury product, you have to buy them by law. So it was a good product for us, and I like the idea that you sell them online, and we have a USP in that we come to the customer. So there's no real direct competition between us and fitting centres.
The whole idea of mobile tyres has been around for a long time. Any tyre fitter with a pickup truck and a compressor who goes out to a farm or roadside looking after a burst tyre on a truck, a building site, all these people are actually providing a mobile service. One such person used to come to a manufacturing business which I had and repair and do the tyres on the fork trucks. So I got to know this guy. When I sold that business in late 1980s, I needed some tyres on my wife's car, and I met this guy on my driveway, and I thought, well, and I was then looking for a business as the next project, and this seemed like a good business, and it's proved that's the case.
I used to work as a salesperson at Carphone Warehouse, and I enjoyed that, and that got me dealing with customers, got me used to selling, but I always wanted to work for myself, and so I was looking around for businesses, and franchising seemed a very safe way to do it. Originally I did intend to set something up from scratch myself, before I actually heard about eTyres and before I found about tyre franchising. The difficulty was, I was 22 at the time, I couldn't get bank finance. Going with a franchise is much easier to get bank finance because it's a proven business model. Being mobile is a massive selling point. Again, to make the comparison to a fitting centre, when you open a fitting centre or anything with a fixed location, it's really easy to get the location wrong. But by being mobile, our market isn't restricted. We can move to wherever the business happens to be.
It's different day to day. You speak to lots of different customers, lots of different branches. It's a very varied role. We're their main backup system. We're their support and their backbone in a way. So without us, I think a lot of them would struggle, and it's good fun.
I've started quite a few businesses in my time. I became a franchisee in a restaurant business, and that proved very successful, and it taught me what a good model franchising was. And over the years, one picks up a bit of business experience, and so by the time I'd then bought and sold a couple of other businesses and developed other businesses, I decided that the way forward would be franchising, particularly because it was a service business, and franchise owners provide a better service than paid managers do.
Back in 2005 we bought the Luton franchise, and at the same time we bought the Milton Keynes area as well. At the time we operated one van, but we soon, within 3 months, we grew to 2 vans. And then within the next year or so we've got a third van on, and it was getting to the point where we were wanting to expand further. So over the last 5 years we've now bought 5 franchises, which is Luton, Milton Keynes, Stevenage, St Albans and the Bedford areas. So it's pretty much everywhere within about 40 miles of where we're based. And we now have 8 vans out on the road and a manager in the office to help us manage the business. Well, when we first started, it was myself and my business partner Ollie. Ollie went out in the van and did most of the fitting, and I was out just marketing the business, really just introducing ourselves to businesses and individuals around the area. The service sort of sells itself really. When people hear about us, they often use us anyway. My job was really just introducing us to other people and letting them know that we'd opened.
We have successful franchise owners from a very wide variety of backgrounds. We have ex-armed forces personnel, we have ex-police officers, ex-computer people, all sorts of different backgrounds. But the one thing obviously that's very necessary is energy and the desire to run their own business and be able to provide good customer service.
By being part of the E-Tyres group, rather than setting up on our own, we get much better buying terms with the suppliers. We get a website which is selling tyres for us nationally. We get the call centre who are taking our calls and handling a lot of the inquiries from our customers while we're out in the van, so we don't have to keep on trying to take those calls and being interrupted whilst we're working on the cars, so we can provide a better level of service to the people we're with, and we have people who are dedicated to selling for us while we're out in the van.
We're very pleased that it's a franchise business, simply because franchise owners take more responsibility for what they do and they provide a better service to the customers. We get emails in all the time from customers saying that franchise owners, and indeed their fitters and staff as well, have gone the extra mile to give them really good service.
First thing we do in the mornings, we take in our deliveries from our tyre suppliers, from the tyres that we've received for the orders the previous day. Then the most important thing we have to do is to call all our customers before 9:30. We promise every customer a phone call before 9:30 on the morning of their fitting. That way they know when to expect us and they're not hanging around for us all day, and the whole service becomes far more convenient. Once we've called everybody and given them ETAs, we then head out and start the day's work. And we try and go around the route in the most efficient way, taking into account any time scales or commitments that the customers have given us in terms of times. It really varies depending on where the work is and how many tyres we get on each individual job, but we can do anything from sort of 12 to 13 tyres right the way up to about 20 to 21 tyres, depending on how many tyres we do per job. But it's usually around about 16 or 17 tyres a day, which is probably around about 7 to 8 jobs.
We've obviously got a team of people here at Cambridge who provide all the service and support that franchise owners need. Initially, that's obviously, we have to train them on how to fit tyres and how to go through the processes that we use. But on a longer term basis, we're taking people sometimes with no business experience at all, and we're turning them into successful business people. When they develop from being a single van to a multi-van franchise, we have to explain to them the responsibilities and the techniques for employing people, how to monitor, control, and encourage and motivate employees. We've got systems in place so that they won't fall foul of employment laws and legislation, all that sort of thing. Our operations manual contains terms and conditions of employment and all the things that one would need to become an employer. But even then, the support and training doesn't stop, because the objective is to take somebody from initially joining us right through to eventually passing the business on to, in some cases, to a family member and retiring, or selling the business and successfully exiting and doing something else, or staying with us for a longer period of time.
I just happened to find E-Tyres. Ollie was looking for some tyres, and he went on the internet and said, where's the cheapest place you can find to get some tyres? I'm in a tyre fitting centre now, I need to find a cheap quote for you to get so I can get them to match it. And I went online, the cheapest place was E-Tyres, and then it mentioned on the website they do franchises, and I thought, oh, that's a really sort of, not, you know, it sounds like quite a safe business selling tyres, because you know it's not a luxury item. So in a recession, people still need to buy tyres. You're not restricting yourself. Yeah. And so I phoned up, went for a meeting with Tony, then realised I needed a business partner to do it with, because of my other commitments with other businesses. And so spoke to Ollie. Ollie was really keen. He came and met Tony as well, and we decided to go ahead.
The great thing about a franchise is that it can't be a franchise unless there already is an existing successful business. What the franchise does is to clone that successful business. If the business itself is rubbish, all franchising will do is make more piles of rubbish. Now, the great advantage for an investor is that because there is an existing business that's going to be cloned, you can go and poke it. You don't have to take anybody's word for it. You don't have to just believe what's in the brochure. You can go and see the real business. In an established franchise, there will not only be the originating business, there'll also be a number of franchisees. There might be as many as 200. You can also go and talk to them. What was their experience? How much did it cost them to get in? Was it worth it? Are they making a profit? Are the costs as the franchisor has described them? All of these are questions you can go and ask people who have had the experience of doing it.
We're back after the break with Tony, Alex and the team and a day in the life of the eTyres franchise. Welcome back. We're spending time with eTyres, looking at the day-to-day challenges and logistics of running a successful franchised business. We join Alex out on a tyre fitting call to find out why he chose to become a franchise owner.
The benefit of going with a franchise was just that it's a proven business model already. We've got a website that's already selling tyres. We're not starting completely cold. You're buying the rights to certain postcodes, which if a job comes from our website, within those postcodes you then get that job. So you're not starting completely cold. You've got the support of the call centre, the support of the marketing team, who sort of guide you in terms of the best ways to advertise, the best way to promote the business. And so a lot of the learning that you would do in a normal business has already been done for you.
Well, statistically, it's well documented that franchising is a much safer route towards running your own business, simply because the franchisor has established a business model that works, especially if the franchise is a member of the British Franchise Association. The BFA have vetted and checked and accredited the business, and so it definitely will work. Obviously, that includes anywhere in the country, and the franchisor doesn't obviously want to award franchises in areas that won't be successful. So in our case, we wouldn't attempt to operate in very remote rural areas.
We're 8 years later. We have eight vans out on the road with some fitters all running those vans, and we now have a manager in place running the business for us, and we just really help train and mentor him. And we also now have developed into a role working for eTyres head office, helping with the training of new franchisees and helping them start their own businesses and learning sort of what we've learnt. They can really learn from our mistakes without having to make their own. Every customer who orders online receives a survey a few days after they complete their order, and it asks them whether they would use us again, whether they're happy with the fitter, whether they're happy with the ordering process, and it's just down to all of us to take him on board any negative feedback that we might get and make sure it doesn't happen again. Having said that, I think the last round of surveys showed that 98% of customers would use us again. So we're doing pretty well, but it's down to all of us to help all of us as well. You know, it would only take one bad franchisee to ruin it for everybody.
After the initial meeting, there would obviously be an evaluation process, and we'd be evaluating the prospective franchise owner just as much, I guess, as they would be evaluating us. That would include them talking to some of our existing franchise owners and doing their research locally. But once they're happy with that, the first part is to obviously sign the franchise agreement. From there, once we receive that back with us, we then send the new franchise owner their copy, together with a pre-start checklist, which is designed to include absolutely everything they're going to need in order to start. So it's VAT registration, maybe registering if it's going to be a company, which we're happy to do as well. It would be obviously form a limited company, secure the bank funding, get a business loan, a business account organised with the bank, telephone numbers, van, equipment, absolutely everything, right through to actually getting started. Then they come for training. That involves some technical training on how to fit tyres. Now that's actually much simpler than one would imagine, because we use state-of-the-art equipment, so that's pretty much given that they'll be able to fit tyres after a couple of weeks. But obviously the customer service side of it is much more important long term, and we spend a lot of time explaining to franchise owners how that should be done, but it's the systems that we use that make it pretty consistent. Probably about 60% of our business comes through the website. The remaining 40% comes to our sales office, which is open 7 days a week. The sales office is in touch with the franchise owners every day. So we're passing work to them, we're discussing jobs, we're explaining little idiosyncrasies of each job, and all this sort of thing. So it's not a case, as in a number of businesses, where you just go away and do your own thing and have little communication with the franchise owner. With us, there's contact every single day.
The nicest thing about doing it, especially on a day like today, is that you're in a different place every single day. No 2 days are the same. You're meeting different people. You're sometimes going to home addresses, work addresses. You're often discovering places you didn't even know, even though they might be within 10 miles of where you've lived all your life. So it's so varied, and you're pretty much, you're controlling how your day goes. So you can you plan your route. You know where you're going to be going. Obviously, there are slight time constraints that customers may give you, but there's no 2 days are the same. So that's probably the biggest benefit.
We have a couple of our most successful franchise owners have actually become members of our management team, and they are now our field operations managers, and they do at least twice annually branch reviews where they go out to the franchise owner, spend time with them actually at their branch, seeing what can be done to help them to build their local business.
We all go to regional franchise meetings twice a year. We're all in general contact with our neighbours regularly anyway, because we're often passing jobs between us. If we get a job in the neighbouring territory, we'll pass that to the neighbouring franchise. So yeah, we all talk, and like I say, we get together twice a year for regional franchise meetings. It's a good way just to get a handle on how everybody's doing, to exchange ideas, and also just for head office to communicate with us so that we understand really what's going on. So I'm about to do the wheel nuts up with a torque wrench. When this clicks, it shows it's done up tight enough. If I could give you a couple of these leaflets, if you know anybody else who you could recommend, would be really, really grateful.
Yeah, that's no problem.
Okay, and if I could ask you to sign just there, and there.
Lovely.
Brilliant. Thanks very much.
Thank
okay.
you.
Cheers. Bye.
Bye.
We have to make sure that we follow certain procedures, and as long as you follow those procedures, then you get support. If you, for example, forgot to do the wheel nuts up on a car, that could absolutely ruin everybody's business. We have a procedure in place to exclude that from happening. Every single customer that we go to, for example, we have to make sure that the customer witnesses us doing the wheel nuts up, so that we know that there can't be a human error come in where we just get distracted or the phone rings and we don't do the wheel nuts up. So what we actually do is we ask the customer to come and witness us doing the wheel nuts up before we do it, and we explain to them that that's what we're about to do and that they're required to witness us doing the last part of the job. That way, if we were to make a mistake or we were to miss a wheel, the customer would actually notice as well. So it's a double check procedure for us, and also it's good for them to know that we're doing the job properly. We're not just using an air gun to do their wheel nuts up and perhaps cross-threading the wheel nuts. We're actually doing the job properly to the correct torque setting, and also we don't leave them in the situation where the wheel nuts are done up so tight with an air gun that if they got a puncture at the side of the road, they jack the car up and they can't actually undo the wheel nuts. They get stuck. So we have certain procedures in place to make sure that all of the important aspects of the job are done correctly, and as long as we follow those, we will get support.
Well, anybody who wants to run their own business, franchising is a very successful model. Whether that be if you want to become a restaurateur, in my case, it was a very good way to become a restaurateur, of which I wasn't the slightest bit interested or had any inclination in becoming a restaurateur, but it was a very good business. And that's really why I became so enthusiastic about it, because all I did was actually demonstrate credibility to the franchisor, came up with sufficient money, and they made me successful in restaurants.
The more people we get in the business, the more vans there are out on the road being seen, the more areas we're covering. We're already covering pretty much most of the country anyway, but the more density of coverage we have, the better we'll be able to service it. And it's just helping grow our sales all the time, the more people we get in the business. You need to be self-motivated. You don't have a boss looking over your shoulder all the time, which most people think would be great, but that really means that it does come down to you to make sure that you're planning your time effectively, you're not wasting any time, you're completely responsible for everything that happens to you when you're running your own business. Whether or not it's your fault, it's your responsibility to make sure it doesn't happen if it goes wrong. So you need to make sure that you're self-motivated, you're using your time effectively, always be doing something, always be looking to try and expand the customer group all the time.
Well, I would look for a business that wasn't susceptible to economic change or technological change, because things can get overtaken by technology and a business can be decimated almost overnight, and speed of change is gathering pace all the time. So first of all, I'd make sure that it couldn't be overtaken by technology. I then make sure that it was recession-proof, because we've been in and out of so many recessions since I started business all those years ago that I know very well you can get smashed by a recession. So in our case, we are at the front of the technology because our team is paranoid about keeping ahead of LinkedIn, Facebook, Twitter, all these different kinds of social media, and we're developing cloud-based computing systems and all this kind of stuff. So we're holding up the national and the technological side of it for the franchise owners. They're providing a great service for the customers. Second thing I would look for is that the franchisor is a member of the BFA, because that way I don't have to do too much more due diligence. I know that the BFA have accredited the franchisor, and then I would talk to one or two people who are already in the business, and I'd look at how successful they are and whether this suited my long-term plans. Whether I felt happy about in our case, working most of the time outside meeting customers, or whether I wanted to work in an office environment, or whether I wanted to work in a retail or a restaurant environment.
The first thing you can do is to go and look at the business itself, because it does exist. You can ask the people who are running it whether they're making a profit and so on. That doesn't necessarily mean that it's going to be the right business for you. And the important thing is about matching your skills and aptitudes to the business you're going to be buying into. It's also about being realistic about what you're going to do every day. You know, I meet lots of people who say that they want to own their own business, and I ask them what it is they want to do, and they tell me they want to own their own business. And I say, I know I didn't ask you that, I asked you what you want to do. Do you want to sit in a van, driving around garages, selling spanners to mechanics? Do you want to stand behind a counter, selling hamburgers to people? Do you want to run teams of people who are selling hamburgers to customers in a retail shop? Exactly what do you want to do every day? One of the advantages of franchising is that you can go and ask people who are already doing it what they do every day. You don't want to buy into a franchise to be unhappy. That is not the object of the exercise. So one of the things you've got a great opportunity to do in franchising is to make sure that you're going to be happy doing the business, whatever it is that involves.
In the last year, there's been a 4% increase in the number of franchises listed with the British Franchise Association, and an overall contribution of more than £13 billion to the UK economy. 4 out of 5 franchisees believe they have a competitive advantage over other small businesses. As with any investment, there will be a lot of research to do before making any decision. Join us next time to find out more about the types of franchise opportunities that are available.